Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is going to talk about what we're going to do today. So one of my favorite tutorials to always go back to is tutorials by this guy, Philip K. And not Philip K. Dick, just Philip K., but also an amazing dude. Um, so it's philipk.net. It's, I mean, they're older tutorials now, but I still like going to them. They're really good examples of kind of what we do. So what we're going to do this whole semester, whatever you want to call it, is we're going to high poly model the crap out of whatever asset you guys choose. Then we're going to make a low, we're going to take it into Mudbox, we're going to beat it up, do whatever, add some scratches, add some little dings and whatever to it. Then we're going to build a low poly version of it again, just retopple it and just rebuild it from scratch. We'll learn some good new tool sets in that too. Then we're going to bake that out using 3D Max. I switched over from using XNormal just because Max seems to actually do a better job in AO. It's a lot nicer than it used to be or something. I don't know if they actually fixed it. And then we're going to paint the hell out of our mesh, and then if we have time, we'll make a little pedestal. If not, I'll kind of talk about what that's like, and if all your assets make up enough to make a room. I know they're kind of more props, but I'll try and make some walls and stuff. Maybe we'll make like a little scene, but we'll see. We'll see if we get that far. As long as you guys have a kick-ass asset by the end of the semester, I think we'll be in good shape. But what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to take a look right now. But if you guys ever want to find this stuff again, it's philipk.net. Just search Philip K. This guy's really awesome. He works for Blizzard and a bunch of other places. He had some of his, if you go to his main website, he had some of his art on here for a really long time, and he never put where this is from, and it's totally from Overwatch. I think for a long time he just said it was like work in progress for Blizzard, and they like let him post stuff, but now he actually wrote Overwatch, which is nice. If you guys played Overwatch, which I know Jason you did,
it's fantastic.
it's fantastic, and it's for a multiplayer game. It's crazy beautiful. Like this, like downtown area with like the pipes and stuff that they have. I just wanted to make
version of TF2.
but I just want them to make like an adventure game. I just want to walk around that town and like just I don't know solve some just whatever just
Have a single player story.
yeah it'd be awesome. This game is crazy beautiful. But anyways, so this guy works for
was
Blizzard.
going to be, what were they calling it, Titan or whatever?
Yeah,
And
what
we're
was
like,
it?
well, this isn't going to work. So
Yeah.
let's just make something else out of all
Let's
these
make something
assets
fun.
and art design and stuff. So.
Yeah, that's funny. So this guy worked on Natural Selection, which is a smaller team, but they also made some nice looking artwork. Bionic Commando, which at the time was a really pretty game, and all that. So he worked on a whole bunch of other shit too. So and he's got some really crazy looking stuff on his own. He's a really good artist. And his stuff's not overly complicated. When you look at his stuff, there's just a lot of big flat pieces. It's not like overly greebly detailed, but his stuff is a good example of harmony. Everything kind of fits in the same world. It all belongs. It's got a nice sense of structure to it, which is something a lot of people struggle with, especially when they first start modeling, is making things really feel like they they're real and you could actually go there. But anyways, while we're here, is we're gonna just kind of look at his tutorial. So on his website, on the top right, there's a little button here for tutorials. And he's got a whole bunch of really cool stuff. But the first one we're going to look at is material tutorials. We're going to go to the metal one because we're doing a lot of sci-fi. So this is his little tutorial of just making a wall panel. So he starts off with a basic box. He adds some slight details. Talks about normal map building, which we'll talk about a little bit. So then he smooths it out and stuff. And then he talks about floaters. And this is what we're going to make a little kit of them today just to kind of warm up on modeling, use some modifiers and some other tool sets and stuff. Now what these guys are, what I highly recommend for you guys is make a crap ton of these things when you're doing, if you're going to do a sci-fi project, especially a bigger one, just make a crap ton of these in a max file. And then whenever you're building something, you just have a max file you could bring stuff from. You don't want to remake this stuff every time because there's no need. These things are just little bits of detail. You don't want to have to, remake the same shit over and over. Now, the cool thing about floaters is they're meant for normal map capturing. So we're going to use these things to capture some of these details without actually having to model them in here. Because if these things are round or inset or sometimes really interesting shapes, trying to model a inset or round thing into a flat object is a pain in the butt. Right? Just get the topology nice and all that. So floaters are really nice because you can float them above your mesh. And when you look at them from the front, they just look like they're actually cut in. They're really sweet. And when we're baking out a normal map, it doesn't know the damn difference. So when you bake it out, it's just going to it's just going to, you know, cut out that end bit, and we'll compile them in Photoshop and composite them together and stuff, and we'll kind of get something like this, but on a much detailed level. So today we're just going to make floaters. And you guys can look through the ref if you want for, you know, floater ideas and stuff, little bits and pieces. But really, any floater you make can go on any piece of technology. It doesn't matter the shape of it, if it's round, whatever. You can just float that shit over top. It doesn't matter. It works quite nicely. So let's just jump right into it. So open up 3D Max. And we'll start off with a couple just simple ones. We'll just start off with a bolt, or like a little bolt and an inset. So go to your creation panel and just make yourself a cylinder. I like to work in one view. You can work in multiple views if you want. Perspective, whatever view you like working. Other shortcuts you guys should really get used to using, if you're not already, is F3, F4. They toggle your wireframe on and off. F3 toggles full from wireframe to shaded, and F4 toggles wireframe over top of your shaded model. Never use these menus like by hand unless you really have to. They're such a pain in the butt to like right click on and find what you have to do. Just stay away from all of that. That's just not good times. So get used to using that. The other thing you should really get used to using, if you're not already, is QWERT, which is QWERTY. So that's to switch over all your move, rotation, scale. Q is select, W is move, E is rotate, and R is scale. And if you click R multiple times, you'll see it'll cycle through the different types of scales as well, which primarily you just want to use the uniform one, because the other one is fucking crazy sometimes. You can do some really weird ass shit. Anyway, so get used to using those guys, and also get used to using viewport changes. I hate this wheel thing. I usually hide this thing. I really can't stand having to click on whatever thing. If you want to look at your mesh from the front, just hit F. Right, hit F and then hit Z, and Z will center your object to your screen. If you want to look at your stuff from the top, just hit T and Z, and it'll center your stuff. And then just get used to zooming in, moving around really quick, because the time you spend changing views, changing selection types or view types, just getting used to using the keyboard shortcuts for that will make you way faster than before. So just anytime I change views, it's like I don't even think about it. It's just, TZ, PZ, P is for perspective. So get used to using that guy. Some people like working in orthographic. I quite enjoy orthographic, and what that is, if you hit front or any of the kind of side, top, down kind of views, and then if you just rotate out of that, you're in orthographic mode, which means there's no perspective. Things won't get smaller as they get further away, which is really trippy, and some people absolutely hate working in there. I really like it, and one of the main reasons I like it is some of Max's tools work better in there. Cut and some things just work a little better. But perspective, obviously, when you're making a scene and you want to view your model, obviously you have to use perspective so you actually understand what your stuff is looking like. What's happening there?
Yeah, if you want to look at the folders that I've been making for Houston here, it's been
Nice. I will.
yes.
So I always think things are out of alignment in orthographic, and I'm trying to like planarize them.
Yeah, I know, and you're like, no, why isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah, it's true. You gotta remember which one you're in, because it could totally trip you up. Okay, so let's start off with those floaters. So if you start off with just a cylinder, right, and I like to make my cylinder and then just push it downwards, just to make it down like that. Hit G to get rid of your grid. I hate the grid, unless I really need it. So if I hit F4, you'll see by default my cylinder has just a shit ton of polygons and edges on the side. All I'm really looking for from my cylinder is the top. I just need that circle. That's all I really care about. So I'm going to right click on this guy and convert to Editable Poly. All right, nice and quick. Now, when you're in Editable Poly, there's a few shortcuts you should remember as well. So once I activate Editable Poly, right, I click on the Editable Poly, turns blue, it's on. Your numbers 1 through 4 or 5 will activate all of these guys here. So 1 will be verts, 2 will be edges, 3 will be loops or borders, whatever it's called. 4 will be polygons, and 5 will be elements. Get used to using those two. Don't do it too fast because it looks like Max might crash. But get used to using those guys as well. I still have a habit of mousing over and clicking these guys sometimes, but try and get used to using that as well. So, hit 4, select the top polygon on your cylinder, and hit Control-I, which will invert your selection. Right? You can hit that as many times as you like, and then just hit delete. So Control-I is a really nice way to just select everything really quickly, right? Just get used to, again, doing all that stuff really, really fast. So all I want is just this top polygon. That's all I want. It's just what I'm going to be modeling from right now. So right now my thing's kind of huge. I can scale it down a little bit. So the first floater we're going to make is an inset, like a divot or whatever you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my polygon. So yeah, I moused over there. So I'm going to select that guy. And on the right-hand panel, I'm going to go to the Edit Polygon menu and select the Inset tool. With that selected, I can hover over and you'll see my mouse will change over to like a little crosshairs kind of looking thing. And if I click and hold and drag on top of this guy, it'll inset that face, and it'll add a new face inside. If that makes sense. So that's an inset. So inset's really sweet. You could add as many of these as you like. Really good way of just adding an extra ring or whatever it is inside your mesh. This works for any kind of polygon. So I'm going to add one inset there, and I'm going to switch over to the Extrude tool, or even the Bevel tool. Yeah, let's do the Bevel tool. Actually, no, let's do the Extrude tool. We'll just do that quickly. So you guys okay? We had a circle, I guess. It's no longer 3D, so it's a circle. Then we inset it to get an extra, basically ring of polygons in there. Then we're going to use the Extrude modifier, and we're going to extrude this guy downwards. Same thing, right? You click it on, click and drag downwards. How deep you want it to be doesn't really matter, right? Something like that. So now we have our little divot kind of mesh, but let's talk a little bit about normal maps before we move on. So I'm going to make a plane over top of this guy. One thing, you guys, as a side note, I always forget about because I have it turned off on my other Macs, is by default in Macs, when you make a new object, it will assign a brand new color to it. I hate it. I like all my stuff to be the same color. I don't know why. I don't like having a rainbow amount of colors. If you select any object that you have, like this guy, the plane that I made is purple now. If I click on the purple there, on the bottom there's a little sign random colors. You can just turn that off if you don't want it. It doesn't matter to you guys if you like it or not. So I'm just going to assign all the same colors to this guy here. I'm going to move my plane a little bit lower. And I'm going to turn off realistic shading, and I'm just going to put it to shaded. Do a bit of a brighter blue. Alright. So I just want to show you guys kind of the idea of what's going to happen with your normal maps. When we capture normal maps in games, the normal maps are the things that make games look friggin' badass these days, right? You have something like this. This is a low poly mesh. A lot of, well, this one might not be, but typically in games we have low poly assets. Let's take a look at something good. I don't have a good example. Whatever. This is like a Mass Effect scene. A lot of the details in here, like this inset here on this wall, it's not modeled in there. It's just a flat plane, right? This pillar is flat, and then this guy is a normal map. And what a normal map does is it tells the lighting engine where there's angles of geometry, but they're not really geometry, it's just a texture. But it tells the lighting engine, be like, hey, this part of the texture is actually angled at a 45-degree angle facing this direction. So if there's a light shining there, can you please put a highlight or a shadow there? And what it does is it just fakes all that information for the viewer, and it makes our stuff look really high poly and really badass without actually dragging down the game engine, which is really sweet. Now the way it does that is it captures all that detail from a top-down perspective. It kind of renders out angles. That's all it really cares about. All of your any of your stuff that you build in Max for normal maps, all it gives a crap about is what angle it's on. So now we see here, so let's say this is our flat panel that we're going to be modeling later on, and this is my new floater that I'm making. Now, I just extruded this thing down, which in real life, yes, it's 3D, there's a divot in there. All a normal map is going to see is this. And when I turn off lighting, it's going to see nothing. Because it's a top-down view, all of my things are going straight into the camera. It doesn't understand that there's depth there because it's not actually reading your geometry as far as depth goes. It just reads the angles. So when we model something, if you saw in Philip K's tutorial there, he talks about angles. And if you have something that's too steep, it won't understand that that's something that you actually want to render into your normal map. So you have to try your best to get things at a 45-degree angle, more or less. So what does that mean? It means that this guy here, if we actually want to make the normal map capture the idea that there's depth here, we have to select this polygon that we've extruded, switch to our scale tool by hitting R, and scale it inwards. And you can go from the front viewport and kind of check out what angle you're at if you really want to be super picky. Wing 45-degree angle. Right? It doesn't have to be, again, perfect. I think a 45 is something like that. Really dumb way in 3D Max to check your angles is anti-aliasing. When your edge here, you see how this edge is perfectly straight, but the one beside it is stepped? The straight edge means it's 45 degrees. And it's stepped right now because it's on an angle, but if I keep scaling it, if I move this guy, let's see here, see how it's stepped? If I move it until that stepping goes away, and the anti-aliasing doesn't have to try and do anything, that means it's perfectly straight. It's really dumb, but it's totally how we still align things. It's really stupid. But anyways, so I angled this guy in by just scaling that inner poly. Now let's take a look at what it looks like on, oh, I scaled it really funny. Now let's take a look at what that looks like on the top down. Now it looks like there's an actual divot in there. It looks like there's a hole. And again, if you ever want to check what your normal maps are going to look like, just put it on your viewport on shaded, turn the same color as your plane as the thing you're making, and just look at it from a top-down view. If you can't see shit, that means there's nothing to see there. And that's the cool thing, right? This thing's floating, it's off the ground, there's space there, but it doesn't understand the difference between this guy and this guy is nothing. They're both facing the exact same direction, they're flat. That's all it really cares about. So that's kind of a quick synopsis of normal maps. I hope that kind of makes sense. It'll make more sense once we start baking them and making them and stuff like that. So you guys okay so far? How you guys doing? You got a floater going on? All right, cool. So we'll take a quick little break. I'll just look at stuff and then we'll continue.